Hello guys, and welcome to another video, where today I think that this is my first actual serial painting. Not as in one singular painting, but I have 5 very small paintings together today. I think it was yesterday my mom asked me to do the 5 cardinal elements as a series of 5 paintings. So I thought, yeah, sure, why not? So I designed that, and the design of that sketch is actually in last week's video. No, maybe not last week's video, it'd be week before last, I believe. The Pen Pal finale, because I lost the footage somehow. I'm really not sure how that happened, but I lost the footage, so I had to do a real-time sketching video instead. I think maybe it's a little bit slower than real-time, like maybe 99% instead of 100, I don't know, something like that. So I decided I would do the 5 cardinal elements, and in today's video we have the sketching for all 5 of the paintings. Of course, in the middle we have Spirit, and I thought that Spirit should be represented by a girl, because I like drawing girls. And there's a flower, because, I don't know, the flower is life, and life is created by all 4 elements together, I guess. I'm not sure, because you have to have air to breathe, and fire creates warmth, and it can't be cold, because then you'll be hypothermic. Of course, you gotta have the dirt to grow the plants in so you can eat and have energy, and you gotta drink water, because humans are like mostly water, so, you know. So I wasn't sure exactly what to say for these videos, because I don't have really a lot to say about my paintings, because it's probably nothing that you haven't heard before or by some better source like Jazza or Bailey J or something like that. So I looked up an article from thoughtcode.com called The 5 Element Symbols of Fire, Water, blah 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 blah, you know. And I thought that I would read some of it to you with each one of these videos. It has some background stuff, and then it has little bits for each of the elements, so I figured that I would read the bits for each of the elements when I get to actually painting them, and the background could be for the sketch. I don't know, so let's read that. The Greeks proposed the existence of 5 basic elements. Of these, 4 were the physical elements, fire, air, water, and earth, of which the entire world is composed. Alchemists eventually associated 4 triangular symbols to represent these elements. I can't read. The 5th element, which goes by a variety of names, is more rarefied than the 4 physical elements. Some call it spirit, others call it aether or quintessence, literally the 5th element in Latin. The traditional Western occult theory, the elements are hierarchical: spirit, fire, air, water, and earth, with the first elements being more spiritual and perfect than the last elements being more material and base. Some modern systems, such as Wicca, view the elements as being equal. Before we examine the elements themselves, it is important to understand the qualities, orientations, and correspondences that are associated with the elements. Each element is connected with aspects in each of these, and it helps correlate the relationship to one another. So the first one says elemental qualities, right? So in classic elemental systems, each element has 2 qualities, and it shares each quality with one other element. So this next section is warm-cold. Each element is either warm or cold, and this corresponds with the male or female gender. This is a strongly dichotomous system where male qualities are things like light, warmth, and activity, and female qualities are dark, cold, passive, and receptive. The orientation of the triangle is determined by the warmth or coldness, male or female. Male, warm elements point upward, ascending toward the spiritual realm. Female, cold elements point downward, descending into the earth. You know, maybe I should have read this article before I started work on the painting, because none of this is actually in the painting, but you know, it's interesting to know. So moist and dry. The second pair of qualities is moistness or dryness. Unlike the warm and cold qualities, moist and dry qualities do not immediately correspond to other concepts. Opposing elements. Because each element shares one of its qualities with one other element, that leaves one element completely unrelated. For example, air is moist like water and warm like fire, but it has nothing in common with earth. These opposing elements are on opposite sides of the diagram and are distinguished by the presence or absence of the crossbar within the triangle. Air and earth are opposites and have the crossbar. Water and fire are also opposites and lack the crossbar. Hierarchy of elements. There is traditionally a hierarchy of elements, and although some modern schools of thought have abandoned this system, the lower elements in the hierarchy are more material and physical, with the higher elements becoming more spiritual, more rarefied, and less physical. The hierarchy can be traced through this diagram. Earth is the lowest, most material element. Circling clockwise from the earth, you get water, and then air, and then fire, which is the least material of the elements. So this is number 2, apparently. It's the elemental pentagram. The pentagram has represented many diverse meanings over the centuries. Since at least the Renaissance, one of its associations is with the 5 elements. Arrangement. Traditionally, there is a hierarchy among the elements, ranging from the most spiritual and rarefied to the least spiritual and most material. This hierarchy determines the placement of the elements around the pentagram. Starting with spirit, the highest element, we descend to fire, then follow the lines of the pentagram over to air, across to water, and down to earth, the lowest and most material of the elements. The final line between earth and spirit completes the geometric shape. Orientation. The issue of a pentagram being point up or point down only gained relevance in the 19th century and has everything to do with the arrangement of elements. A point up pentagram came to symbolize spirit ruling over the 4 physical elements, while a point down pentagram symbolized spirit being subsumed by water or descending into matter. Since then, some have simplified those associations to represent good and evil. This is generally not the position of those who commonly work with point-down pentagrams, and is often not the position of those associating themselves with point-up pentagrams either. So then it goes on to colors. It says the colors used here are those associated with each element by the Golden Dawn. These associations are commonly borrowed by groups as well. So we have elemental correspondences. This is number 3, apparently. Ceremonial occult systems traditionally depend on systems of correspondences, collections of items that are all associated in some way with the desired goal. While the types of correspondences are nearly endless, associations between elements, seasons, times of day, elements, moon phases, and directions have become fairly standardized in the West. These are frequently the basis for additional correspondences. And this says the Golden Dawn's elemental directional correspondences. So, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn codified some of these correspondences in the 19th century. Most notable here are the cardinal directions. The Golden Dawn originated in England, and the directional/elemental correspondences reflect a European perspective. To the south are warmer climates, and thus is associated with fire. The Atlantic Ocean lies to the west. The north is cold and formidable, a land of the earth, but sometimes not a lot else. Occultists practicing in America or elsewhere sometimes do not find these correspondences to work. Then it says daily, monthly, and yearly cycles. So cycles are important facets of many occult systems. Looking at daily, monthly, and yearly natural cycles, we find periods of growth and dying, of fullness and bareness. Fire is the element of fullness and life, and is closely associated with the sun. Therefore, it's unsurprising that noon and summer would be associated with fire. By that same logic, the full moon should also be in the same category. Earth is in the opposite direction as fire, and therefore corresponds with midnight, winter, and the new moon. While these things might represent barrenness, more often they are representative of potential and transformation, the point where the old gives way to the new, the empty fertility readies to feed new creations. Air is the element of new beginnings, youth, increase, and creativity. As such, it is associated with spring, the waxing moon, and sunrise. These are growing warmer and brighter, while plants and animals give birth to a new generation. Water is the element of emotion and wisdom, particularly the wisdom of age. It represents a time past the peak of livelihood, moving toward the end of the cycle. So, I guess that was the end of that part of today's article. That was actually really interesting to learn about all the stuff. I'm kind of strange. I like to know about all this stuff. So next they have all the little bits about each element, and they're really very small, so I suppose that for all the other videos I'll have to look up other articles about each specific element and things about its past and whatnot, because a lot of that was talking about all 5 in tandem. So I figure, oh, why not learn something while I paint? It's always good to know what you're doing. So thank you dudes for watching, man. I really do appreciate that you're hanging around over here on my little channel. I have commissions open on DeviantArt and social media linked down below. You're free to click or not, I don't care. You're helping me out just by showing up, so I appreciate it much. Very much, I do. So if you really wouldn't mind, you can like and subscribe. Comment down below whether or not you enjoy my weird narrations and drawings. But otherwise, have a nice day, and I will see you in the next one.